Hi and welcome to Talk to Inspire. My name is Mehlika Tanriverdi and my guest today is Sandra Schoenmakers. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here with me. And I would love to talk to you about you today. We met at a birthday party of Kalpana Raghuvarman last year, and I was on my travels as well. And I am so inspired by all the graphics you do and all that you are, and the posts and your sharings about you and your life and your work, that I just wanted to talk about how comes, like how
did we get here? How did it start?
Yeah.
Oh, I was bored. No,
Thank you.
I'll go back all the way.
You live in Belgium or in Holland?
I live in the Netherlands, in the south, so it's really close to Belgium and Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I had a German dad, but we agreed
to
do the interview in German. So, I think maybe a good place to start is finding access consciousness. That really was the game changer in everything. I had my, well, let's start. I'm married to Frank for over 5 years now, and we have 2 babies, Emma and Noah. They're 3 and 1 years old. And after I had Emma, she didn't sleep for a couple of months, and she was dealing with some things, and I didn't go back to work. I worked as a nurse on the dialysis ward, and that's also where I met my husband, and he worked there for 36 years. He's a little bit older than me. And I didn't go back to work after I had Emma because I had a lot of physical things come up, and I couldn't deal with it. And then Frank broke his neck when I was at home, not feeling really well. So it was like stuff piling up that you're like, I don't know how to do this anymore with not sleeping and taking care of a baby and your husband almost dying. It really was a close call. And then like really at the low point, I found access consciousness. And my best friend talked to me about it. And then my husband bought me my first bars class for my birthday. And since that day, everything started to change. And I learned about awareness and about energy. And I didn't, it felt like something that wasn't real, because my life used to be kind of difficult with all this stuff happening all the time, and ease of joy and glory wasn't really a thing that was there. And after that class, everything started to change, and I learned about light and heavy and trusting myself. And out of the blue, I quit my job, which made no sense whatsoever. And since then, I started my own business and went to more classes and became more aware, and just asked to connect with people that would contribute to my life. And a couple of months later, after that first bars class, I connected with Kalpana. And then everything started to change.
So you said you had like all those physical stuff going on. What was it like? Can you just
talk
more about?
The way I look at it now, the way I was always in everybody's world. I didn't even know that everything you felt or you're aware of, that it could be, that you're aware of somebody else. I didn't know any of this until my first bars class, when I learned about consciousness and energy. And working as a nurse, I think I put all of the things of all my patients in my body and healing everybody, not even knowing I was doing that. So when I was 13 years old, I had a bleeding in my brain, and I was paralyzed from the neck down, which was quite impressive. And now after every class I attended, I have a totally different way of looking at it. And it's such a gift that all of that happened. But that caused a really big blow to my body that caused nerve damage throughout my body. And I had a lot of pain just all the time. And I remember trying out with the neurologist, trying out 10 different medications, like really the heavy stuff that made your hair fall off and fall out, and all the, I don't know, all the stuff. And I remember taking care of my patients, and I felt like an 80-year-old, and I didn't want to live beyond 20 because it was so intense. And really soon after finding Access, all these things just started to melt away. I remember in my first foundation, after a couple of weeks, I had really bad endometriosis, and I've had a surgery in the past. And
What's
it was
endometriosis?
It's when the tissue that's in your uterus grows outside of your uterus when you have your periods. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really painful, and it can cause infertility, and it's like this really, really messy disease. And after my first foundation, I started using the Access body processes, and after a couple of months, I went back to the gynecologist, and she couldn't even find the big mass anymore.
Wow, that is so amazing. And that's something like I have these talks to inspire people. It's that I know many people that are in pain, or that they have like sicknesses, illnesses, and they just don't know that there is another possibility, that you can change it. And that's why I'm like, wow, like, and usually when you have pain, you can't think of anything else than the pain. You just go into it, and you're like, and then you start like being self-pitying yourself and go like, oh, poor me, why me? And so how did you change that with the Access tools? Or what tools did you use? What was it for you? What was the point where you were like, okay, this needs to change? And or that you started believing, oh, there's tools that would change it? Like, what was it for you?
For me, I think the biggest change was realizing that that not everything I'm aware of belongs to me. Not everything I feel in my body is, mine. And then I started really asking questions. And then in the beginning, I was like, how do you ask a question? Because you always answer. And I remember practicing with my friends. We were like, we have to learn how to, ask questions like these people in Access. and now it's just a thing you do all the time. But the thing we do is something happens and it's intense and we contract, and then you just forget to ask a question. And I think I started to do that, and really, sending back what didn't belong to me, and always asking for a lighter possibility, something that would take me out of what I'm in. Because there's been a lot of intense moments the last years, but what do you want?
That was so nice. As you said it, like, in the beginning, you don't even know how to ask a question, and then you practice asking it and look for questions, and then you use them, and then you do it all the time.
Yeah, I think there's so many things you have to like fire up here, because we've learned so much about asking and answering, and then I think has to be like a reset that happens up here, that you start doing things differently. So there was like, it took some time for me to reset everything and really ask questions. And I don't know how to say that in English. Doomtank. I was always someone that, because so much bad stuff happened in my life, I was always waiting for the shoe to drop, So something good would happen, then would be like, okay, now probably something bad will happen. And I was waiting for that to happen. And now I really see that I create my life, and even all the bad stuff that come, they don't make me drown, There's this ease of dealing with it all now.
Thank you so much. That's so inspiring. Yeah, because so many people get stuck there. They're like, okay, this is the way it is, but you're like, okay, just ask a question. And then what happens then? You ask questions. That's how you changed it. Is that easy? And you sent back what doesn't belong to you.
I also made a lot of choices with the people in my life. There was this, it's a long story, but a situation with my son where he was really sick. And what I got out of that was really trusting myself, but also surrounding myself with people that contribute, and not people that make me doubt myself, or limit what I'm creating. And I had to choose that in that moment, because otherwise I wouldn't have survived. And now when everything's calmed down, it's like I see really clear who contributes and who doesn't, and who's trying to put their shit on my plate. And there's this clarity of seeing what doesn't belong to you. And when you really look at what's yours, it's not a lot, and life can be quite simple and easeful, because I think we're just used to carrying around other people's stuff all the time. And as a nurse, you do that even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a game changer.
What a gift. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Even, like, sometimes I go back to how things were, and I can't even imagine not knowing all of the things I know now.
Yeah.
I remember how hard it was at a lot of times.
Yeah, and it's just so good. You just said that you have to trust yourself and trust your knowing. I mean, I remember when Aziz got his first fever, and he was like a tiny baby, and my parents were like, you need to go to the hospital, you need to go to the hospital. And I was like, no, that's not true. That's my knowing was like, no, that's going to be stressful for him. And he's like having this fever and his body is struggling. So I went into my knowing and trusting myself, and I called the lady who helped me with the birth, and I was like, okay, what can I do? And she was like, just do this and this, and it was like so easy, and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And since then, Aziz doesn't get that sick that quickly, because he had that fever, and I allowed him to have that fever, and his body like started working in a different way. So what we learn is like you have to put medicine in, put the fever down, and like, and I don't say don't do all that stuff. It's rather like go with your knowing. And I mean, you went through so many things, and trusting yourself was like, and choosing for you and what you know.
Yeah, it was really
what I get from
being alive. I had to trust myself, because when you become a mom, people project all their stuff at you, like how you're supposed to do things. And I remember with Emma, I didn't have the tools yet in the beginning, the first months, and her being sick and everybody having an opinion about everything, and I was just like, it was just so much. And now with Noah, it was really at one point me against the world. And I was like you. I had it maybe needs a bit of an introduction, but I was really sitting across the doctor that was telling me that I was killing my baby with my decision.
What did he have, for the ones who don't know? What did Noah have?
Okay, so Noah was
what did they say?
At 20 weeks pregnant, we learned that Noah had like 4 heart defects. It's called I don't know in English, but and then your whole world is upside down. You have an ultrasound, and they say, hey, I don't see the veins that go to the heart, and you're like, what? And then it took 4 days before going to different hospitals. So we spent 4 days in like, okay, so are we gonna have that baby? And it was really weird. And they figured out what it was, and then the first option they give you if you want to abort because there's something wrong with your baby. And then it already started to trust our knowing, so we asked questions. We were like, nope, he's fine. And then they gave us like a risk calculation that stuff will be wrong with his development, and so all of that is in your head. And again, we asked the question, and we were like, I don't think that's going to happen, he's fine, which takes some balls in that situation, because it
does. And like how can, like, and then it's just about choosing, isn't it? It's just like knowing, trusting, choosing.
Yeah, like every day. The thing that was hardest for me was the worrying of everybody around me, and they were putting that on us, like, oh my God, and what if, and that, and you have all these scenarios. And then the doctor's visit, it wasn't like, hey, I'm pregnant and I'm having an ultrasound, but it was like a really medical checkup regularly, and with like 10 doctors in the room, and then not even looking at me, but just focused on his heart, and planning the delivery with the crash team ready. And it was like a difficult pregnancy. And I remember there was this shift, and I was like, I am not going to enjoy this pregnancy, because there's something wrong with my baby. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it. And there was, quite some ease with all of it. Looking back, I'm like, how did I do that? But
Wow.
you just do it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And even the birth was so much calmer than the scenario you had in your mind. It was just the two people in the room and 2 pushes, and he was in my arms, and he was a big, healthy, baby. And they still took him away after 10 minutes because it's protocol. And that's when me and the medical world started to, crash a bit. And we took him home after 2 days, and he had kind of a good start. And then after a couple of weeks, the complaints started to come, and they planned on, the short version, they planned on operating on him when he was already 5 kilos. And some stuff happened, and they started medication. And I have a medical background, and we started to give him diuretics when he was breathing very heavily and out of breath. And then I just saw it wasn't doing him good. And it was protocol with what was happening to start that medication. But with my background, I just saw that the diuretics were really like taking too much fluids out of his body. I was breastfeeding like 30 times a day, and he couldn't keep up with everything. So I started to connect with the doctor about it, and they advised to keep going. And that's where it crashed with like up here and my knowing. And they wouldn't listen to me, and I couldn't not listen to Noah, even if he was a baby. But he was really clear that it wasn't working for him. So on my own, I stopped giving him that medication, and I trusted me and Noah and everything. And there was this long fight with the doctors back and forth, and them pushing me to operate. And then they canceled like 3 times because there was a more severe patient in front of him. And this went on for months. And then it was like this change, and we came into a different hospital. And then it was like something opened up, like this is the time. And then he was 8 months old. He was like 10 kilos. He was a big, fat, chubby baby. And then he had an operation, but before, in that period, he cleared 3 of the 4 heart defects on his own.
Wow. They
just changed as he grew, which isn't possible, but it was never acknowledged what happened. And there was one thing left, that's a hole between the 2 halves of the heart, and they've closed it. It was a really easy surgery, went great, and now he's a healthy, beautiful boy.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him, and it's amazing to watch. And I got on with your post and saw that story, and I'm so impressed about how you handled it. And like, you have to have eggs to do that, right? To go against the doctor's opinion and just like choose for you and what is gonna work. Yeah. And I mean, you asked, what kind of questions did you ask around that?
There were really difficult times that I was just lost, because it's that responsibility that you're, doctors saying that you're killing your baby, and then you're, alone with him at night. And that there were so many scary moments, but the people that, like Kalpna, and I have a couple of very aware, beautiful friends, they just kept asking me questions and helping me stay present and looking at what is. And I don't know, just, they kept me from going to the real drama and just getting lost in all of it, and just staying present and looking at Noah and asking questions. And so I get it. My support team really
following your awareness. Great creation, I'd say. You have to create that and choose it as well, isn't it?
And also I realized Emma she was little, but the way she woke up, and even Noah, with all of that he had, he was always so happy, and every day they start happy. And you can't like not start your day happy if they're around you all the time. It's truly also what gets you through, I think, just being surrounded by those kind of people.
Nice. That is so beautiful.
I'm so happy it's over now that I'm just, talking about it again. I'm just so happy we're here, and also very grateful for the experience, because when you're in it, you don't know, why is this happening to me? But there's always a gift in things that happen in your life. And I really believe you create everything. And because it empowered me more than anything ever did.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's what those things do. And what you just said, like the question of, okay, what's the gift in this? And I talked to this with a person the other day, and he was like, I don't get it. And I was like, yeah, but when you look back, you see there's a gift in everything in your life.
Everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the way
and
I
acknowledge that. And like, you just put it so beautifully. And now, what do you do now? Like now, all health issues are done. What is it you're doing? Like, you do the graphics for Kalpana and other people. And I love your graphics. Like, if you have to check them out. It's like, we'll put the link down there to contact Sandra. And yeah, what do you like? Do you have an access business? Because usually, like, the people are like, who start with access start an access business too.
No, I started my business giving bars classes and just sessions and all of that. And then when I started to work with Kalpana, she invited me, more into her business, more and more and more. And she has a way of getting people to access their capacities. She's this space and invitation to just, I always say when I met her, I didn't even know how to put an audio in an email. I was just like, if you see what I do now, it's amazing. But it started with her giving me the freedom to just explore. And I just started to just like, make an image with text on it, just simple. And I started to play with graphics more and more, and it just grew into the real focus of my business. So now my business is just graphic design, which I love. And it's so easy and fun. And I still can't believe that, it's my business. I just am so grateful every day. Yeah. And in Kalpana's business, I'm her coordinator and assistant. So it's something I also didn't know I was good at, just coordinating everything and keeping an eye on everything. And just the marketing and a little bit of everything. So I do 1,000 things in one day, and I'm a full-time mom on the side, and I love it. I think I would be bored if I wasn't this busy.
Mm-hmm. So, do you ever come to the point that you're like, oh, it's too much, I can't handle this?
Yeah,
and what do you do then?
I think everybody has that, and I'm the thing that's still difficult for me is choosing my own space. Somehow I've been, the caregiver for so long, and with the kids too. And now actually it's kind of funny how the world works, because now was supposed to be like my time, I guess. So Frank quit his job more than a month ago to give me more space so I can work more with more ease and, get out of the house. And then I started to plan all these travels this year, and I was like going into the world, and then Corona happened. It's like, thank you. The timing is uncanny. So now it's quite busy working at home with the kids and all the work that is there to do. But my allowance muscle grew a lot more, and there's also this peace and I know what all that's happening in the world, but here in this house, it's just, there's this ease and space and just being together. And I'm enjoying the time that we're this close together, just soaking it up. Emma's starting school the end of the year, so everything will change and her world become bigger. And I'm just enjoying this time at home. And even though it's busy, I don't know, I just more and more there's this ease in just choosing what works. If you're in something for work and the kids really require you, you just drop everything and you just have to be in the flow of, it's like
that. I know. I love that. But it's so good for people to hear it, because it's like, it's not that everything is perfect from one moment to the other. It's like, you use the tools every day, you ask questions all the time, and you, as you just put it, you exercise being an allowance, or you start going with the flow wherever your attention is required. You just go like, okay, the children need me now, I can go back to this now, I'll do that now, and then it just comes together. As long as you keep that space.
Yeah. When you start to contract it, and I have to do this, then everything will turn to shit. I have that moments. I'm not like, I'm still learning. And what I learned is that it doesn't create anything. Everybody loses their shit. And, and actually since a recent class, Talk to the Entities class I did a couple weeks ago with Kalpana, I think something clicked in me that I'm able to choose that space even more. Because sometimes with the kids, they just, you don't know why, but they're just like, all over the place. And normally I would, I think, try to fix it and try to restore the peace or whatever. And now I notice that I'm just, pulling back a bit and being that space so that they melt into space again too. And it works. It's kind of cool to play.
How do you do that?
I think, it's a barrier thing. Just dropping your barriers and being, and not going into, the whatever they're doing. And somehow it works. And with kids, it's so fast. You just see her in her upset and her drama, and you just be space. And then you see her drop her barriers, and then it's like a click, and then she's, joyful again. So it's really, I think it's just fun to play with.
And what do you mean with dropping your barriers? For those who don't know.
Well, maybe you're better at explaining. I'm going to see. Well, I think everybody, you can have like this wall around you. And I think we create this for ourselves to protect ourselves, because there's so much that happens in your life. And in Access Consciousness, you just learn to, drop that barrier you built around yourself to protect yourself, this energetic barrier. So you just imagine that you drop it, and then you can truly be that energetic space that you are. And I don't know, it changes everything.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. I've never explained that.
Great. It was just amazing. That's why I was like, hey, because you're talking about, and it's so funny because when we play with the Access tools, we use a kind of Access language, and because we use the tools all the time, we don't even remember that other people don't know what we mean. So, and I just try to, like, in the interviews, I just want to get people, like, if they watch that and they don't know the tools, that they get insight, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, okay, that's what she's doing. Okay, cool.
I always, sometimes it just sneaks in to use certain words. Yeah, I'm always somehow aware to just use my own words and everything.
It's beautiful.
I try to. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Is there something you want to give another something, like an inspirational tool, whatever it is, whatever, like, where you're like, hey.
I said so much. I think, I think maybe that you always have choice, because everybody has a story. I have a story, and there's so much that could have made me choose to, like, drown in everything that happened and stick to my story and not create my life, and I guess be unhappy. And I always looked for something that made me happy or lights me up, or just follow, those things. And it can be little things, but I think with every choice you make, even choosing gratitude, it grows how much more you choose it. And what I want to say, I just, that you don't have to be a victim of what happened to you, and that you always have a choice to do something else. And it's not like, oh, it's easy for you to say. No, I've really been through a lot of crap, and physical and all the things, and I'm really happy right now. So it's, I think everything's possible when you want to create something.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's been so inspiring. You're so inspiring. Thank you for sharing all of that. It's
like really natural for me to share my story. I've been to psychologists and all the things in the past, and I remember sitting there and just saying the whole story. But since this awareness journey, I really went into the story and to the moment and just cleared you know, the heaviness that's on all the things that happened. And now you can just talk about it and look back and just cherish what happened and see, you know, see the gift of everything that happened. You don't have to carry everything around that happened. You can just leave the backpack and just, you know,
live on,
later.
flourish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's been amazing. Thank you. I hope it was an inspiration for everybody who will watch
I hope so.
YouTube. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, if people like graphics, you're offering graphics.
Yeah.
We'll link down there.
I'm working on my new website. My husband quit his job, but he's been in web design for several years, and now we're creating together. So he builds websites and I do the design, and we're working on my new website together, and it's almost done. So we'll share the link, and then you can
you guys can jump on and check out Sandra's work, because it's amazing. And she works with these tools not only to heal herself and her children, but also to create like amazing stuff for your businesses.
Yeah, it's really, I do use it when I create. It's really weird. When I start making something, I just think of that person, and literally when I'm looking for images, I just ask, you know, what would Mehlika like? And it's like the energy tells you it's light, heavy, and then it's like this one, and it always works out. It's just like a play and just fun.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's not normal.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This was fun. Thank you.